Hello, everyone. It's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So I am here with Green Party candidate for House of Delegates of the 69th District, Montigue Magruder. I told you I was going to start bringing on candidates from other parties as this idea of trying to find solutions to our current dilemma in regard to this two-party duopoly. Come to find out, he's my delegate, or he's running in my particular district. This was random. I didn't know this random. Like, this is one of those things that just kind of happened. So let's bring him on. How's it going, Monty? Montague, I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Could you pronounce your name for me, just so everybody can hear
Sure thing. It's Montigue Magruder. And just for the record, this is the House of Delegates race that's happening in Virginia. I will be on the ballot in the general election on November 7th, 2017 in Virginia's 69th district. So that's basically the southwest portion of Richmond City within the city limits and a small part of Chesterfield County.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this. Tell the people what got you into politics. Like, what got you into, A, running as a Green Party candidate first, but also what got you into politics itself? What was the thing that,
well,
like, because you're a Green Party candidate, so it's not like you're being paid off. Like, ultimately, you're doing it because something burns in you to do it.
But I will answer the question in reverse order. I got into politics. I was originally into politics in my teenage years, but in 2010, when GRTC went to city council and proposed a set of fare increases on their bus service, that's what led me to go down to city council at that time and stand up and speak up for the people. Now, I'm a mass transit enthusiast, so I like buses, trains, planes, stuff like that. And that is, and as you can see, that was my catalyst that led me into getting into politics in the first place, because I saw things that were affecting bus riders and things that were affecting my hobby. So it's like it was my urge to stand up for those, for the concerns of regular everyday bus riders, which at the time also included myself, because I'm a person that has taken public transit every year of his life. From the time, basically from the day my mom went into labor with me, I took she was on the bus, and every Saturday until my grandmother died, she always take me on the bus back in Charlottesville. She'll take me back on a bus ride across town, and that just stuck with me. And so, like I said, just growing up with that sense of adventure and growing up having that urge to help people out, that's what led me into politics. Now, to answer the other part of the question on why I became a Green Party candidate, well, I was originally a lifelong Democrat, for the record. Up until last year, I voted Democrat down ticket regardless of who it was. I voted for Obama twice on down ticket races for governor and whatnot. I always voted the Democrat ticket because I felt they were more in line with my values. But over time, I got involved with organizations like the Industrial Workers of the World, which is a labor union that organizes all workers, including unemployed people and people in prisons. I also got involved with organizations like Virginia Organizing, Richmond Transit Riders Union, the Richmond Public Housing Residents Against Mass Evictions, and I've been involved with those organizations. And through my involvement, I wound up opening my eyes to the ways of the world. I was brought up thinking that capitalism was all good and gravy, but then the more I saw how this capitalist society was hurting people like me, especially after the recession occurred back in 2010. I mean, in 2008, when I was 21 years old, like that, that had a profound impact on me. Hold on just a moment here.
No, you're fine.
There we go. My headphone cord came out. My bad.
You're fine.
But yeah, when I left the Democrat Party last year, it was because I was generally supportive of Bernie Sanders, but I wasn't, like, I felt like he was trying to sheepdog all the progressive and radical energy that was in the Democrat Party and get everybody to support Hillary Clinton. And lo and behold, we saw what was going on. And not only that, but the WikiLeaks emails came out showing how Democrats were rigging the elections, the primary
Yes.
elections, to basically keep Bernie Sanders from becoming the nominee, and that caused me to. That was the main catalyst behind me leaving the Democrat Party. Not only that, but it was the fact that I kept seeing Democrats come into black neighborhoods. Quite frankly, coming into black neighborhoods, promising us the moon and the stars, and when it was time to actually fight for black causes, not one of them would actually stand up and fight for the issues that black people have brought up to them, like ending lifetime felon disenfranchisement, which was based in racist policy, fighting for a
Yes,
minimum
it
wage,
was.
ending these constraints that prevent us from obtaining cleaner energy sources and stuff like that. Being in bed with dominion power, those kind of things led me to leave the Democrat Party because they were taking money from corporations, and especially after what's her name, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, removed ended that ban on taking corporate money. Like that led me to leave the Democrat Party. Those things led me to leave the Democrat Party in its entirety.
Essentially, you were looking for something that was more in line with your values, and the
Yeah.
Greens.
Yeah,
Because,
what made me join the Greens actually was the fact that they last year by resolution they actually established themselves as an eco-socialist, anti-capitalist party. And I am an anti-capitalist, and my viewpoints are along the lines of Marxism. So somebody could call me a socialist or a communist. I would have no problem with ascribing to either of those because none of those, offend me because that's actually accurate.
No, I think you're being way too honest on that one. Not even the communist part, because they how they use anything to attack you with, and people have they don't necessarily have a clear. It's one of those things where words are unclear, like they're so subjective with some level of subjectivity because it's what Let me give an example.
Mm-hmm.
Like these guys are out there hollering resistance. What does that mean? What does that mean? So if you're LGBTQ, resistance means I'm fighting against Trump because he's trying to oppress my sexuality. If you're black, I'm fighting against him because he's trying to, it's some potential for my blackness is on attack. Like they use these subjective words for particular reasons, for particular ends. I agree with you. I was the same way. I, for the most part, voted Democrat, and I voted for Ralph Nader, and Jill Stein. Like, so this time it was like just broke the camel's back. It was too much. It was too much. And like you said, even the environmental thing. Like, let me ask you this: who are you running against? Let's be specific to the cause, because we can go on a tangent on that one. Who are you running against right now?
I am running against Betsy Carr, who is the Democrat Party incumbent. There is no Republican challenger in the 69th district. She has been one of those corporatist Democrats. She has taken money from Dominion Power and Appalachian Power, which doesn't even service the 69th district. She's also taken money from Altria, which was formerly known as Philip Morris. And she's also even taken money from company. Yep, that is correct. And she has also taken money from Raytheon, which builds Tomahawk missiles, which have been used to bomb people in Syria and other countries in the Middle East.
Let's call it what it is: murder.
Yeah,
let's call it what it is.
That's exactly what it is. Murder for oil.
You essentially as or an incentive to murder people abroad. It's like, I understand that you don't like us dropping bombs on you, but we need jobs. It's like we need to keep our jobs.
In a sick way, that's true.
It is. I know it's a very sick way to look at it. So let me ask you this: so what's your platform? What is the main issues in the district? Because I have to be honest, I know more about federal, to a small degree state level, but what are the main issues that you guys are contesting in Virginia, in Richmond, in the 69th district?
My platform is all about building the greater good. It's kind of a play on what Jill Stein was running on last year, fighting for the greater good. But instead, I want to build the greater good, because that means we are collectively taking responsibility for our own destiny and building our greater good as we see fit. And so that means that, like I said earlier, ending lifetime felon disenfranchisement, that's part of building the greater good. putting strong checks on police power, like
Yes. Yes.
requiring elected civilian review boards in every for every sheriff's department, every police department, every
Yes.
juvenile corrections facility in Virginia. That's part of building the greater good. A $26 an hour minimum wage for businesses that make more than $2 million a year in profits. That's part of building the greater good. And so,
That's
like I
interesting.
said, those are
Wow.
the kinds of things I'm fighting on, along with defending women's reproductive health rights and men's reproductive health rights, and expanding protections for the LGBTQ community. Seeing that this is Pride Month, I'm gonna go ahead and speak on that real quick. The Virginia Human the Virginia
Go for
Human
it.
Rights Act currently does not include protections for the LGBTQ community, so people who have a different gender expression, a different sexual orientation or gender identity, they are not protected by the Virginia Human Rights Act. And
Mhm.
I want to part of, in my opinion, part of building the
Wait,
greater
wait, wait.
good, it
What do you
means
mean?
expanding those
Wait.
protections.
One second. You said they're not protected under the Human Rights Act. Explain that one, just in
The
case,
the Virginia Public
people.
sorry about that. The Virginia Human Rights Act basically says that people, your basic anti-discrimination law basically says that you cannot be discriminated against because of your race, your marital status, how many children you have, whether you're pregnant, your religious practices, stuff like that. So it's not really an actual human rights act where it says you have the right to clean air and water, you have the right to affordable and safe housing, you have the right to decent food access, and those are the parts of the provisions that I also want to include in the Virginia Human Rights Act. And not only that, I also want to make it a part of the state constitution.
Wow, that would be amazing. You're going to hit at the heart of frailty. Like,
Hmm.
I've always made this point that the capitalist model used frailty to compel people to work.
That is
It's
true.
like it's productive. It's like a pitchfork. Like, go
Mhm.
do work, do work. And if you don't do it, it's not going to use anything as vulgar as a whip or a chain. It's going to use your own frailties. You need food, you need shelter, you need water, you need clothing, you need fresh air.
Hmm.
You're not going to get those things if you don't do something. Um, and oftentimes it's exploitive. It's not even, this kind of self-affirming work. It's not what the person wants to do. It's what the person just has to do to survive. It's not even
That's
what
true.
society needs. It's
I,
so, yeah.
and
You're
and
gonna,
you got to look at it like this too. That's why what you just explained there. That's why you see sex workers going out there getting involved in sex work. That's why you see drug dealers going out there selling drugs, or people breaking into other folks' houses and robbing them, taking their possessions. It's not because they want to do that. It's because they have to do that in order to survive. And if those conditions, like you mentioned, didn't exist, we wouldn't have crime wouldn't exist at all. If
yeah, I agree with you.
everybody had
I
access
always,
to a home and all that good stuff, we wouldn't need we wouldn't have to worry about police or crime and things like that. We would already like things would already be straight. Like everybody would be set by now if we recognize this
yeah,
model.
I've always made this argument that aberrant behavior is not just normal. Like, we
Hmm.
look at the stuff and say, "Oh, this shit happens," but that's not. It's not that simple. It's if you had a person who was optimum, meaning that person had the things that he needed.
Hmm.
Believing that person would show aberrant behavior in that way. I just
Hmm.
have a hard time believing it. Um, no, that's a good point. Now, so let me ask you this: what are some of the other objectives of the Green Party candidate? So, and beyond that, and before we hit that one, how do you
Hmm.
overcome? What are some of the? How do you win this? How do you win this? Like, what are the things that you need to overcome in order to get into that office and get her out that seat?
Well, I'm gonna first bring up a quick story. Some of y'all may know that John Woo Baraka, who ran as the vice presidential candidate for the Green Party in 2016, he came down to Richmond, Virginia, in last year, right about a month before the election, to speak in support of the Shaco Stadium. I mean, not the Shaco Stadium, the Shaco Memorial Park proposal, which was
Mhm.
being introduced by the Virginia Defenders for Freedom, Justice, and Equality. Now, one of the things I asked him during my was how do I win my city council race? And what he told me was like the best outright sound advice. You gotta go straight to the doors. Can't robocall, can't send mailers. I mean, fundraising helps, and it would help me a lot in my case because then I can purchase signs and relevant campaign materials. But
Right.
door knocking is like the best solution to winning because people are sick and tired of being asked for money. They're sick and tired of seeing junk mail in their mailboxes. They're sick and tired of getting all these strange phone calls from people that they don't know. And especially seeing that we're in the 69th district, people don't answer their phone if they don't know you. So knocking on doors, going straight to the doors, talking to people, building that support, and of course going out to events or forums and things like that is the best solution to winning any race, if you ask me.
No, that makes sense. Now, let's say...
And also, I forgot to mention right quick, here in Richmond, a lot of our politics are like directly controlled by the Democrat Party. Like there's an active political machine here, and so trying to overcome that machine is also going to be a tough challenge. But I'm one of those people, I have no problem with standing up to bullies or anybody in power, and so I'm willing to step up and overcome that challenge. I might be the little scrappy dog, compared to Scooby-Doo and Shaggy and all them. But I'm one of those people. I'm putting my dukes up because I'm tired of complaining. I'm gonna put my dukes up and fight this one.
Yeah, let me ask you this. I'm sitting I'm sitting at home. I'm doing a video. I hear a knock on the door, and hearing that knock on the door, I open the door, and it's you or one of your affiliates. What are they going to tell me to get me to vote? And understand what I mean. If your district is mostly African Americans, I think you said it was 69% African Americans.
59% African American. Yeah, 59% African American, 30% white, 11% Latino, according to the 2010 census.
Okay. Now, African Americans, for the most part, religiously vote Democrat. Now, I think it's monstrous and ridiculous that they do so. The fact that Hillary Clinton got 89% of the black vote is astonishing and sad and pathetic.
That's true.
It's sad and pathetic because that woman was not going to do anything for the black community. And no, I mean, in voting in those numbers, you're voting in a way where you're saying, I don't know why you would vote in those numbers like that. Like, and don't misunderstand me. I understand this thing of African Americans is what we vote. We vote out of fear. We don't typically necessarily vote our hopes. Obama was a rare case where we voted our hopes. Yeah, Obama was a rare case we voted our hopes in 2008. And so you had this thing where they were not just voting against the boogeyman, Republican Party. They were also voting saying, yes, we got one of them in. We got one of them in. Well, with Hillary, you didn't have that. But at the same token, they still voted to keep the boogeyman out of office. Now, I would imagine in the districts, it's something similar where they're voting perfunctory, not because they know who anybody else on the ballot is. They see the Democrat and they just vote the Democrat. How do you break that? And how do you get it through my skull when you're sitting there? Let's say I'm not me. Let's say I'm not somebody let's say I'm a robot. Okay. Let's say I'm a robot. Through those people's skull that you're being screwed over and you're being used by that party. And ultimately, if you really want something done, you need to put me in that office because I am going to be working for your best interests.
Well, it's not to answer the first part of your question. It's not whether I tell you something, it's whether I show you something. I come to your door, I knock on your door, you answer the door. First thing I'm gonna hand you is a copy of one of my flyers, which includes specific policies that I'm going to fight for. Instead of you getting some vague flyer saying that I believe in transparency and accountability, I'm actually going to tell you what I'm going to do on that flyer. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to fight for lifetime felon disenfranchisement. I'm going to fight for a statewide ban on fracking and the construction of natural gas pipelines. I'm going to fight for those things. And whether if you have questions about them, feel free to ask. Because
the thing is, go ahead. I'm sorry. There's a slight lag, so sometimes I may intrude, but it's by accident. Go for it. I'm sorry.
No, it's cool because it's the human condition. We wind up interrupting when we have a thought that pops up in our head. So that kind of explains a lot of the interrupting stuff that we see from certain political factions. But anywho, the whole thing is we, like I said, we have to break this mold where somebody can just come to our door, present up with us with vague material, and then we just accept it at that and be like, oh, we'll vote for you. We need to come with a plan.
Yeah.
Agreed. That's one of the things that I've noticed within the Black community. We get hope and change. We get hope and change. When a politician goes to a Latino community, an Asian community, a white community, they get a plan that specifically details what that politician is going to fight for if they get elected to help that community, while we still get stuck with hope and change. And like I said, part of me breaking that is by showing them my plan. Not just talking about it, but showing them my plan and then talking to them about my plan, because then that means I'm provoking them to do research about my plan and see why it makes sense to support my plan, and which will actually help us build the greater good.
No, that makes sense to me. I mean, and like I said, if it was me, I'd agree. But arguments aren't won at the level of the argument. And I'm pushing on this a little bit. I'm challenging you on this slightly. Because I kind of want to, I want to make it plain to me. Like I want, put it this way. You already have me in a sense. When I go and place my vote, you're getting my vote.
Thank you.
I am saying the higher question, how on earth do you shake these people out of this condition? You and I having an argument doesn't change your mind. It's not, somebody isn't the thing that gets through that person's head of something different. But it's the only device that we have. You're going to get some people who say, okay, you're right. Others who are not necessarily going to get it. How do you do it? Because look, that's a heavy hurdle to overcome. That woman is in this particular district. No interest or no need to do anything for the African Americans in that district because she knows they're going to get that vote. Just perfunctory.
A warm seat.
I don't have to say, right. I don't have to say squat. I don't even have anybody running against me on the other side, and it's a Republican. The other person who's running against me is a Green Party candidate. And the Green Party candidate, from their perspective, is something new. It's something different. They're somewhat skittish by it. They're like, ugh. There's a slight eroticism towards going it, but they don't want to necessarily go there. You find it's like there needs to be some way of getting across to those people that, look, she's screwing you over. I am not. And I'm here in your best interest. And it's like, how do you slide that message through to them? Like, I understand the pamphlet. And I understand. Like, and look, I agree with Baraka. The knocking on the door thing is probably the best thing. If you sit there and you shake their hand and you look them in the eye, of getting something across to them. So I firmly agree on that one. I just wish I knew the solution to get African Americans out of that level of complacency.
Well, first, because what you have to do. Sorry about that. But first, you have to do. You have to remind people about that person's track record, and that's one of the things I plan on doing, and throughout this campaign. I want people to be aware of Betsy Carr's track record, about the legislation that she's voted on that supported Dominion Power, which has been trying to build 2 pipelines through the state, or voting on House Bill, for example, House Bill 2290 in the previous session, which basically requires that school students taking driver's ed courses be required to learn how to interact with police officers when they're pulled over. Those kind of things.
Wow. Are you serious?
Those it's there. Look it up. And on top of that,
that's amazing.
On top of that, a lot of Democrats in this state, they talk about, well, we're out of power. We're out of power because of redistricting and blah blah blah. But what they do not tell you is that in 2011, all Democrats that were on the floor of the House of Delegates at the time and the state Senate voted in favor of the current maps that redistricted them and put them out of power for 10 years.
Yeah, man.
So like I said, it's all about pulling up. That's how you overcome that. Show them their track record. Make that candidate, make your opponent answer for that track record. And on top of that, I can point out, and while you're doing that, you also point out your own track record. Like I said, for example, I still when GRTC, the public transit system, tried to raise fares in 2010 and then 2013, for their disabled and for their disabled first services, I spoke against them. I spoke against the Shaco Stadium proposal, which was going to put $80 million into building a baseball field in one of the most flood-prone areas of Richmond. Okay.
Yeah, I remember
that. Yeah. I've been out when earlier this year, Buckingham County voted in favor of approving a special use permit for Dominion Power to build a compressor station in the Union Hill section of their county, which is the only Black community in their county. I was there, and I traveled with friends that were part of the groups like No ACP to go down there and speak against that. See, I have a track record of actually standing up for the people and speaking up for their concerns and fighting for them, while on the other hand, the last time I seen my opponent at even a city council meeting here was to talk about the commemoration of the Carillon monument that's in the northern half of this district that's basically been there since World War II or World War I, I believe.
You'd agree that if you don't have anybody running against you, like if in her mind, well, I'm going to get their vote anyway. The majority of the people in the district is Black. They're going to vote for me just because I'm a Democrat.
That's right.
I don't have to do anything for that vote. Like that's the thing that I try to hammer home. It's like, if you're an African American, if you're voting in those margins, they don't have to do anything for you. Your vote is like you've given your vote over to somebody just willy-nilly. A vote is a transaction. In the same way that Republicans and these Democratic donors, these plutocrats, pay these guys money, well, they're paying the money in order to get votes to do things for them. I'm saying that the same thing applies to people who don't have that money. I'm giving you my vote because I want something in return for that vote. If you're giving it in that degree and you're not holding her accountable in the sense of saying, no, I'm going to let you lose. You're not going to represent me. If you just give it away, then she has no reason to represent you.
That's
just
true.
Zero reason. There's no impetus at all. And I agree with you.
But at the same time, it's also about whether people are even aware of what's going on. Because exactly, like for example, you mentioned earlier how you're not all that aware of state and local elections, and that's a lot. When I found out that's what's going on in a lot of parts of my district, there are a lot of people that don't know that there is a General Assembly, that there is a House of Delegates, there is a state Senate, that they do make laws that affect your everyday life. They are the ones that pass your taxes and all that stuff. They raise your taxes. Those they don't have no knowledge of that, and so part of my battle is actually voter education to let them know that yes, that an office like that does exist. You do have power over it, and you should be able to directly choose the people who represent you, and they should be people that reflect, that are a reflection of your of the issues you want represented and of your values.
Agree. Full-throatedly agree. I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more.
Yep.
Now, fair race. This is interesting to me. So, and this is always interesting from the standpoint of leftist politics. I have two more questions after this, because I don't want to keep you for too long.
I got all day, man. We're go ahead and talk as much as you I'm good.
So, leftist politics has certain real-world contradictions that they have to contend with. You're in a capitalistic system, and in the capitalistic system, capital is the highest virtue. Because capital is the highest virtue, humanity itself becomes subordinate. How much cash you have is directly related to your decision space. So if you have when Republicans and Democrats get out there and talk about freedom, they're not talking about us. They're talking about people with capital who has the capacity to be free. When you're getting into this idea of, now what was the reason that GRTC gave for increasing that fare? And is it possible that they needed to increase it for some kind of budgetary reasons?
Well, it was when it comes to the budgetary reasons, that is true, because it turns out that in both years that GRTC had to request fare increases, they actually the city council at that time actually voted to short them the amount of funding needed to stave off the increase. Like in 2013, when GRTC went before city council to ask for a fare increase on what is known as the caravan service for elderly and disabled folks, the city council at that time voted through their budget, voted to short GRTC $500,000, which was
Ooh.
exactly what was needed to stave off a fare increase at the time. But then, funny thing is, a year later, they found money to give to GRTC specifically to fill what is known as the post BRT, which, as it stands now, was widely unpopular across all sections of the city because of the fact that it was short-sighted. It was already it was duplicitous in service. It was actually going to lead to cuts in service, and that we already seeing that now with the proposed Richmond Transit Network Plan, which I encourage everybody to research. And so, and this goes back to my opponent and how she was not there to speak up for those issues that were directly affecting the people in her district. But here I am, going down to city council and speaking up for them.
Yeah, you have a track record in that sense.
Yes,
that makes sense. But I guess what I'm getting at though is, I think I see what you mean. You're saying, well, the budget, they shouldn't increase the fare because ultimately the money was there for it. They just didn't allocate the money.
Bam. And last year, when all the candidates were running for mayor, they kept saying the same thing over and over. The money is there. It's just if we have our priorities in order. So, and it's the same thing with the state level politics and federal level politics. The money is there to do everything that we need to do. The problem is that our priorities are set on going across the world to the Middle East to blow them up and take control of their oil resources, while they use the media to keep us divided against each other and keep our eyes off of the actual issues.
Yes. I would say one thing about Sanders is that he got across this thing that divide is not as significant as people think it is. Because, when he was in Trump country, those people were standing ovations. Like this man who's a flaming leftist, unabashed flaming leftist, is getting standing ovations in what's supposed to be dark, dark red territories. I argue that a lot of this stuff is tribal. Like a lot of this stuff is not. It's like if you represent the interests of economics, if you say, I'm going to make your life easier, and if they believe you, you will get their votes. So this red-blue thing kind of goes away.
That's true.
Now, if people wanted to donate to you, where can they do that?
I have a CrowdPack page that is set up. And you can find it also on my Facebook page. I have it pinned up as a permanent post, if you could call it that. It's a CrowdPack, and you can. I encourage everybody to go on there, to donate if you can, to share the page, endorse the campaign if you would like, because that will help. That'll help increase intention to the campaign. I also have been featured on another CrowdPack campaign that was started by Activate Virginia, which was supposed to feature all of the candidates that pledged to refuse to accept corporate money from Dominion Power and Appalachian Power and fight for a clean energy policy. And because I am a Green Party member, that was easy for me to do by default because we don't accept corporate money, period. And on top of that, I am probably the only candidate within the Richmond Metro, I'm going to say, because I can't say for the rest of the state, but within the Richmond Metro that has publicly come out in support of the Virginia Declaration of Solar Rights, which it seeks to make. The Virginia Declaration of Solar Rights is basically, it was started by a group called Virginia Sun. And what they want to do is they want to promote the expansion of solar energy. Currently, we have very restrictive laws in place in the state of Virginia that reduce our. It says, for example, you cannot exceed 1% energy production from solar. You cannot share. You cannot share or lease with your community solar panels, stuff like that.
That's done purely for the oil lobby. It has to be. There's no sense to that at all. Like if you're anybody, even with a glimmer of this idea of the environment honestly and earnestly, because regardless of what the subordinate reality says, the subordinate reality of capitalism, it says your goal is to maximize profit, capital is the highest virtue. This idea of climate doesn't apply. It's not even considered a factor. Your ecological situation, it's not considered a factor. You have a situation where they're literally saying a clean energy source is somehow a negative, and that they want you to continue to use a finite, meaning dominion power. It's amazing. Like that's an amazing thing. That's an absolute amazing thing. I didn't realize that those laws were in place in Virginia.
Yeah, that and like I said, it's in the law, and you have people like Betsy Carr that were actually voting to expand those restrictions in place. Basically, like recently they voted. The General Assembly voted on House Bill 2291 in this past session, which will allow Dominion Power to upgrade their nuclear power plants while being able to raise the extra taxes and fees, the rider rates on customers in order to pay for those upgrades. She voted for that. Okay. So that's what I'm saying. They're continuously voting against the people's interests. And that's how I know I'm going to win this election, because all I have to do, like I said, I don't have to run any negative campaign ads. I can simply say, look at Betsy Carr's track record. Look at her track record and look at mine and see which one is the better choice. But yeah, like I said earlier, the Virginia Sun organization wants to expand. They want to expand solar power usage. The ones who started the petition to get people, they wanted candidates for office and current legislators to sign on to it, saying that if they get elected or whatever, that they will support clean energy policy. They would support the expansion of solar power. And as a city council candidate last year, I signed that petition, and I still stand behind my signature on that petition even this year, because I believe that we are supposed to be living in harmony with the earth and not in further destruction of the earth. But as we've seen, like as Jimmy Dore even pointed out himself, it's mainly because not necessarily that the energy companies want us stuck on finite resources, it's because the banks want a return on their investment of all that, of the pipeline infrastructure and fossil fuel infrastructure. So they want to keep the banks want to keep us there, because that means they'll get a return on their investment. But the problem with that is, it's going to take, by the time we start getting gray hair, because I'm 30 now, by the time I start getting gray hair, that's when the banks will actually see a return on their investment. So basically, we'll be just about dead before they actually see a return on investment. And not only that, but the so-called fossil fuel bubble is expected to burst long before then, because we'll never be able to burn all those fossil fuels off. So what's the point of us continuing to, like you said, continuing to deal with these finite resources, especially when, for example, the internal combustion engine, cars and all that, the original designers of that, like people like Rudolph Diesel, who invented the diesel engine, he wanted his engines to run off of vegetable and fruit juices and even marijuana.
Can't make a profit off that. Can't make a profit off that.
There you go, man. There you go. You can't make a profit off it because it's renewable and sustainable. And the federal government proved this back in the early 1900s. And because of lobbying from companies like DuPont that was trying to make oil-based and Standard Oil and whatnot, we are now dependent on oil for just about everything that, like plastics and stuff like that, when we could have hemp-based products that actually would last longer and would be more sustainable and less damaging to our environment.
Yeah, you can grow it in the ground. Well, there is one catch. I mean, if you're talking about hemp, for instance, you're talking about using farmland. If you're talking about using farmland, are you going to displace regular agriculture? Like, are you going to, like, for instance, this one of the problems with this these fuels that they're using, with this idea of like growing corn and corn oil and all this other stuff in order to make these fuels. Well, they're taking good farmland, and so it's like earth in order to yield food for the people on the planet. And if we start using this idea of a profit motive to create things that aren't food that we're going to consume, but things that we're going to use in our engines, oh man, like you can already see the thing now. Like, do you honestly believe that if a question came up of Do we feed these people, or do we get this product so we can put in our cars? That feeding the people is going to win. I don't think so. I don't think so.
Well, the problem is, and it goes back to what I was saying about budgetary constraints, it's not that we don't have the resources to feed everybody, because we do.
No, we do. Yeah, we do.
Problem is that we prioritize the resources that we have on other things that we don't need. Or we're hoarding, in the case like oil, for example, we're hoarding all the resources. Well, the capitalists are hoarding all those resources and keeping them back from the people.
Yes, I agree.
So that we cannot, take advantage of those resources and prosper. I mean, that's why you think, for example, like I said, why do you think they criminalized marijuana in the first place?
Well,
mainly it was because of
sorry. Well, part of it, Richard Nixon wanted to be able to castigate blacks and hippies. One of the guys who he was came out saying that for the most part he wanted to be able to lock up blacks and hippies, and he was scared that those two groups were going to join and create this kind of movement, whites and blacks going against the government. And so in his mind, if we criminalize it, we can castigate these guys on network news every night, and we can get rid of their voting rights. Meaning, A, we can separate them, put them in cages, and get rid of their ability to vote.
Well,
being this bad substance.
Well, in terms of removing the ability to vote, you got to go back to the earlier 1900s, around 1902, what were known as the Redeemer Democrats, what we know as the Dixiecrats, right?
Dixiecrats, yeah.
The post-Confederate Democrats. They were the ones who fought for lifetime felon disenfranchisement to be included into the Virginia Constitution. And then once that got in there, then all the other states started picking up on it. So it was more about that. So removing our ability to vote was done long ago. And even further around that same time was the fact that, for example, recall elections. In Virginia, they do not have recall elections. They have recall trials. If you get enough signatures on a petition, the person basically will be taken to court. And I guess the jury, if they include that, will be the person that be the final arbiter of whether that person stays in office or not. Nobody actually, nobody actually faces a recall election in Virginia, and that's also something I want to change as part of my electoral reform package.
That's so weird. That's a bizarre thing. You would think that they would allow the people themselves to make the decision on whether to recall, not a judge. That's bizarre.
I mean, for example, like when it comes to petitions to get things on the ballot, like for example, last year when they wanted to make right to work part of the state constitution.
Yeah.
Like the people can't do that by law. By state law, the people can't do that. The General Assembly has to do it.
Right.
And so Virginia has these kind of strange laws that, in my opinion, uphold white supremacist capitalism. And so, if anything, I would consider myself an abolitionist of sorts, because I want to get rid of all those laws that restrict our ability to not only control and not only choose who represents us in public office, but to also allow us to determine our own fates and destinies on a personal level.
Agreed. Freedom.
Put like this: you cannot say that you cannot say that you're free. You're totally free if you have to work for a living in order to survive. What you alluded to earlier.
Yes. Yes.
And all these constrictions.
It's socially necessary labor, but you're right. If there's no need for a fry cook. You know what I mean? Like this fry cook is not a socially necessary labor. But if you will be a fry cook, you as a human being have worth, and you should be paid for that worth, meaning you should be paid a decent wage, even if you're a fry cook. Is there anything else you want to tell the people who are looking at you, who are like, or just in general, just the audience, maybe they're skeptical, maybe they love you to death, but is there any last word to the audience?
It's a lot that I can go into, but one of the things that I would like to talk to everybody, because I am like I mentioned earlier, I was a member of the Industrial Workers of the World, which is a labor union. And one of the issues that that is close to my heart is the fact that we have right to work laws in the state, that we have at-will employment in the state, that we also have what is it? We also have prohibitions against public sector workers from striking. And so I would like to be that person that introduces legislation that gets rid of that abolishes those restrictions, that abolishes the ban on collective bargaining, that abolishes right to work, that abolishes the restrictions on public sector workers and nurses from striking. And there's even, if memory serves me correct, and Virginia's minimum wage law does not cover professions that were historically staffed by Black people. Working as a movie at a movie theater as a ticket collector or as a concession stand worker, you are exempt from making a minimum wage. Not only that, but by federal law, disabled workers are exempt from the minimum wage, from earning a minimum wage. And so people like me should be elected into office because we actually want to make things like that disappear so that everybody can live a life of dignity from love, a life of dignity and love from birth until death, because nobody should have to go without. Building the greater good means that you recognize those injustices and you stand up and fight for it. There is one quick quote that two quick quotes that I'm gonna end with right quick.
Go for it.
The King Jr., which basically highlights our obligation. The first one says, hold on just a moment. The first one says, there comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe nor politic, nor popular, but he must take it because his conscience tells him it is right. And the other quote that I want to, I know, I see. The other,
I love King, man. I love King. His stuff on YouTube is amazing.
I can't even hear you at the moment because I got there we go. Gotta put that back in right quick. But yeah, the other,
no, I was just saying I love King. So
yeah, but the other quote from Martin Luther King is that we are called to speak up for the weak, for the voiceless, for the victims of our nation, and for those that this nation calls enemy. And until we recognize those things, we are not building the greater good. We must speak up for those who are homeless, who live in public housing, who are minimum wage workers, who are bus riders, who are single parents who lost their loved one because they got sent off to war or got incarcerated. Those who are incarcerated. And it's people like me that are ready to speak up for those groups of people that are consistently being locked out of the process, of the decision-making process over and over again because it's not politically expedient. And I don't say these things because it's politically expedient or it makes me look good. It's because I've been through some of those issues. I've been homeless. I've been jobless. I've been incarcerated before. It's a lot of things that I've been through that lead me to realize that the way things are in this world are not what they're supposed to be. And so instead of me continuing to complain about them, I'm going to fight for the people and stand up for them. And I encourage everybody watching this interview to stand up and do the same as best you can. Join organizations, run for public office, build a revolution of some sort, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes, make it happen so that we can build the greater good, not only here in Virginia, but everywhere across the world. It is our human obligation to do it. And until we do it, until we stand up to that, we answer that call, we cannot consider ourselves human beings. And I know I'm long-winded as hell, and some people are wondering when I'm going to shut up. But
no, you're fine.
I'm just saying,
I made the same case. I always make this case that we're the dreamers, and yet we're the people who pull this country forward. I mean, I would imagine that part of your angst and part of the thing that got you into politics was this world isn't right. It's not right. It shouldn't be arranged in this way. And there's no reason there's no reason at all that society should be arranged in this particular way where it was one, I think he had this thing saying how a person is beat over the head from the time they're born to the time they die. And that's not the way a society should be.
That's right.
Yeah.
And also we can leave with another quote from Malcolm X, for example.
Go for it. Go for it.
You can't stab me in the back with a knife that's 6 inches, pull out the knife 3 inches, and then call that progress.
Yes.
There's a reason for that because if you're pulling out the knife 3 inches and calling it progress, you're not taking the knife out of the back that harmed me. You're not giving me the resources to help me heal. You're not holding the person accountable, which could be you, who stabbed me in the first place. So how about we focus on that instead of these tiptoe solutions, these incremental solutions, and do what John Woo Baraka said. Let's go for the gusto. Let's take it all. The momentum is with us. You said in one of your videos, Jamal, no matter how these Republicans, these right-wingers, these alt-right folks, centrists, no matter how they slice the cake, that we are correct on everything. The left is right on everything. Yes. We are on the right side of history. We have to stand, and it's up to us to stand up and show them why we are right in the first place. We must leave and abandon this system of control and order and move to a system of true justice and equity if we are going to save this earth. Because it's going to be us.
Yes.
The responsibility is entirely on us to save this earth. And if we don't, then, quite to quote Alex Jones, we're going to be living in a prison planet.
If
there's a planet that left.
And it's true. Like, people act like this civilization, and I know this is going slightly long. People act like the civilization will persist forever. Mm-hmm. You know, like that you can do whatever you want, and for the most part, just because the previous day came, that the next day will also come. Mm-hmm. Civilizations collapse throughout history. Like, you can go back throughout history and see civilizations who thought they were going to be around forever collapse. They're not here anymore. They're not here anymore. And a lot of that had to do with the mismanagement of the civilization, not because they were taken on from the outside. Mm-hmm. Stuff happened on the inside.
Exactly.
So, no,
I mean, you got to look at, and I know this is going to go on to another tangent, but the 2016 elections, let's go there. Because, like I said,
go for it. Go for it.
Let's go there. Like I said, everybody talks about, Russia hacked our elections. We got to stop Russia because they're hacking our elections, blah, blah, blah. That's false. I'm going to tell y'all why it's false. Shelby County v. Holder. Shelby County v. Holder. That was the Supreme Court case that was decided in 2013 while Scalia was still alive that gutted the pre-clearance requirement of the Voting Rights Act. Once that was gutted out, southern states closed nearly 900 polling stations. Voter ID instituted. States like Florida tightened up their felon disenfranchisement laws to reflect what Virginia has, which is lifetime felon disenfranchisement, plus the use of interstate cross-check to illegally purge eligible voters from the rolls. Russia didn't have to our elections.
But here's the problem.
We did it within our own borders, and we got to recognize that and stand up to our government our local and state government specifically for interfering with our elections and stop focusing on Russia when we have more pressing issues at home.
I'm glad you said that. I mean, because when you watch mainstream media, it is the most aggravating thing in the world to me, where they're having these conversations. I don't watch it. Look, and I don't watch it either. What tends to happen is somebody say, "Hey, dude, you really need to analyze this."
Yeah.
Otherwise, we don't pay attention. I don't even have television in the sense of like cable or anything. We just have internet. It's aggravating to me when I watch these shows like CNN, and you would see some corporate shill talking to another shill about this election stuff as if it's legitimate, as if they didn't just cheat these guys, as if this kind of gross,
as if they didn't cheat Bernie Sanders in the primary, and the emails, there were emails reflecting that.
It's like this weird case of Bernie Sanders out there sheepdogging for the Democratic Party after the Democratic Party cheating him, saying that Russia hacked us. And it's like, hey, Bernie, what did Russia tell you? Well, they said that the Democratic Party cheated me. That's what Russia told me.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The emails are right there. WikiLeaks have never been proven wrong, ever. Never. So, and if they have, I would like to see that proof, because until then, them emails still stand.
They can't. Well, here's the thing: WikiLeaks can't afford to be wrong.
That's right.
Because the moment they're wrong, it plants a certain amount of doubt in people's mind, meaning they have to be precise in everything that they do. So, percent approval rating, because they have to. They don't have a choice.
And that's the thing. That's what drives them to be honest and accurate and check their sources and make sure everything is correct. Whereas like Jimmy Dore has reported on, you got outlets like the Washington Times that have a $600 million contract to spill out stories that to spill out the whatever stories the CIA propagates. We have to, and that's, like I said, that's one of the reasons why I avoid those media outlets unless they're actually reporting on something that's objective and actually fact-based, that either can easily, or that is already confirmed, or can easily be confirmed because the research is available to do it.
To back it up. Yeah. It's funny. People point that out. And I think some people don't realize that the CIA has been doing that for years. Like, it's not, Washington Post is not the first paper they bought.
True.
There's records going back in the 60s.
I believe Gloria Steinem, who was a well-known feminist, for example, her magazine, Miss Magazine, was bought. I think the CIA started that publication for her, so she could propagate stories that were dividing, men against women and stuff like that, and that was leading to another divide, within America, the gender divide, the divide against men and women. When in reality, a lot of our struggles, especially within the Black community, are exactly the same.
Yeah.
But I don't I don't blame feminism for that. I blame the government for that because, like I said, they meant to do that to divide us in the first place.
Well, you need to divide if you want to have the ruling elite.
Divide
you don't have a choice. Yeah, you don't have a choice. If those people start getting together, problems. That's going to be hell of a bit.
No, like man. Look, simple as this: general strike. General strike. If everybody were to go on a general strike, just withhold all their labor for a day or even a week or a month, it would cripple the system.
Yeah,
it would cripple.
But they don't think that way. They don't think that way. People don't think that way. Like they think in very specific boxes.
Yeah,
part of it is fear, but part of it is fear. Because they know that they will be without. Like I've always made this point that there are 3 rungs or 4 rungs of society, depending on how you want to split it. People who don't have anything, like dirt poor. People who barely or making ends meet, but full well understand that they can fall into the other brackets. So you have 3 of the brackets. Mm-hmm. Now you have the top 1%, but you have the other remaining people in that society vulnerable. They're vulnerable. Now, they're not vulnerable because they need to be vulnerable. They're vulnerable because the economic system requires them to be vulnerable to persist itself. That's a big difference. Like in those things. I think it was Alan Greenspan. We're talking about how it's good to have people who are indebted and vulnerable because it makes complicit workers. It shuts them the hell up and puts them in front of their job space.
Just like George Carlin said, we got idiot workers who are not willing to question anything and just accept whatever they've been told. Whatever has been dished out over the past 30 years, basically to condition us that we have been told for decades, and so until, like I said earlier, what Martin Luther King told us to do, until we do what he told us to do, to stand up for those people who have been marginalized and who have been shut out of the political process.
Be their voice.
Exactly. Be the megaphone.
Yeah, what is it? Be their megaphone. Yeah, that's right. Because
be their megaphone and be in their people's ear.
My biggest issue with the Democratic Party was that ultimately they were supposed to be those people's voice. Sold out. And when they came full on, the corporate party, just the Republican Party, those people lost their voice in full situation anymore, where you had the rich, like the workers versus the wealthy oligarchs. Argue with one another on how much you want to rape the public. The Democratic Party says, I don't want to rape them that much. The other party wants to go full on.
And see what makes it even worse. All right, and I told Tim Black this joke that I used to tell him all the time. It's just like that Dave Chappelle sketch where you have this holla at bitches service for you, where you call somebody and they'll come holla at bitches for you, and they'll be like, "What's the real?" And that's exactly what's going on. What the media, what these oligarchs, they're basically being that holla at bitches service for you, where they're telling us all.
That's what it is. They're paying politicians to holla. That's all. They're being their mouthpiece. That's all it is. out there, holla, 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 holla. No, man, that's a funny one. Yeah, I remember that one. All right, dude, I'm gonna end it at this. I appreciated this. And I really hope that people do take you up on that crowdsource. And I really hope that people do look you up and see what you're about. Because I think you're a real deal. I mean, you seem to be doing this because you care, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like,
I like this. One of my slogans is I'm the only man that gives a damn about his community.
There you go.
Because and for the quite quick, I do not have a website running up just yet, but it's in the works. But I do have a Facebook campaign page which y'all can look up, Montigue Magruder for Virginia House of Delegates, 69th District. I'm gonna repeat that one more time. Montigue Magruder for Virginia House. Yes, thank you.
So yeah, I was gonna put the link at the bottom. That's where they can find you. But definitely tell them again. Just
sure. Montigue Magruder for Virginia House of Delegates, 69th District. I have my crowd pack campaign featured on there, so that y'all can click there, donate, endorse the campaign, share it with everybody that you know, spread the word out. Because for those who live in Richmond, you know that Richmond is a word of mouth town. All it takes is a few people talking to each other, and it's out there. So let's get our message put out there so that we can win and build the greater good in Virginia.
Very nice, very nice. All right, thanks, man.
You're welcome, man.
This was awesome. Have a good one, guys. And I'm going to put the content. I'm going to put the information down at the bottom. So, all right, guys. If you enjoyed the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe, and definitely look my man up. Definitely look my man up. He's out there fighting for us. District. The least I can do is try to fight for him too.
Look, this is for me. This is worth more than money to me.
Yeah,
just being out there, being able to get my message out there, get our message out there, so that people can understand that there are people that are willing to stand up for them and fight for them.
Hot damn, right on. All right, I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
You're welcome, man.